Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is inside a Brooklyn detention center tonight, facing criminal charges on American soil. This is video of Maduro earlier being perp-walked inside a DA field office in New York City. And a law enforcement source tells MS Now that this video is indeed authentic. The 25-page indictment posted by Attorney General Pam Bondi today lays out their charges, ranging from narco-terrorism to conspiracy to import cocaine, among other charges. Now, as the New York Times points out, and as you're thinking about kind of what is ahead here, the defendants are going to be taken before a judge and probably enter a plea of not guilty. That's what we expect. The judge will almost certainly order them detained pending a trial that could be more than a year away. But that's just the beginning. And the sheer magnitude and spectacle of this case raises a lot of questions of exactly how this will all play out in the days and months ahead, and what other big legal questions are going to be debated around all of this in the months ahead. Joining us now is former federal prosecutor and MS Now legal analyst Barbara McQuade. Barb, you said, you have been in these rooms. You have been a person consulted on the legality of so many of these difficult questions about the use of military force. You said that even if an indictment is appropriate here, the arrest was not. Talk us through that and talk us through sort of your overall reaction to some of the legal challenges and questions you've seen about these events over the last 24 hours.
Yes, well, obviously a grand jury has returned this indictment against Nicolas Maduro and his co-defendants, meaning they found probable cause to believe that he committed the crimes he is charged with committing in this indictment. But this is where things kind of go off the rails. The way they ordinarily would arrest somebody who is not living in the United States is through an extradition request. That is the way, for example, the former president of Honduras was arrested and charged, convicted, sentenced until he was pardoned by President Trump. Instead, what we see happening here is a military rendition where we've got the military go into Venezuela, kill a reported 40 people, and then seize Nicolas Maduro to bring him out to face charges. The problem with that arrest is that it violates the UN Charter. The United States is a signatory to that charter. It was affirmed by Congress in 1945. The president has a constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And so by violating the Charter of the United Nations, it is a violation of the Constitution. So that's why I think this arrest is problematic. Now, I imagine we will see an arraignment on Monday. It will be a routine hearing. He will be charged and held over. But what we will see in the coming months, Jen, I think, will be a number of motions filed by the defense to dismiss this case. I don't know whether they'll be successful in a court of law. It's a little bit separate from what's happening internationally. I imagine there will be a motion to dismiss on the basis of sovereign immunity. The head of state is typically immune from a criminal prosecution. There may even be a motion to suppress his body as being obtained through sort of the fruit of the poisonous tree. However, there is case law in the United States, something known as the Kerr-Frisbee rule, that says if the body's in the United States, it doesn't matter how it got there, the person still has to stand trial. So I imagine we will see those issues litigated in the months to come.
We have seen, just to go back to a point you made kind of earlier on, we've seen obviously concerns expressed by some countries that are not surprising, some that are in the region, also by the UN. Are there any consequences here, kind of in the legal universe and of global law, for members of the Trump administration for being a part of implementing this?
Well, I think one of the things this risks by saying we are going to go into another country, charge somebody, and then essentially abduct them and take them to stand charges, kind of open the floodgates for any other country to do that. And so even if there is no legal mechanism to stop somebody, there is certainly now perhaps you can cite this as a precedent for Russia to go in and say we've charged the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky with war crimes and we're going to go in and extract him and arrest him, or for China to do the same with Taiwan, or as you have suggested, for somebody in a third country to say members of the Trump administration have violated international law or violated the law of their country, and they're going to storm into our country and abduct these people and take them away. This is what the United Nations was all designed to prevent: aggression against states unprovoked. Certainly self-defense is one thing, but what President Trump has done here is to suggest that because lives are lost through drug overdose deaths, that what he is doing here is a defensive posture. That is a bootstrap argument that I just don't think is going to carry the day. And so what I think is happening here is what is sometimes referred to, Jen, as the bad man theory of the law. That is, the good man follows the law because it is moral and right to do so. The bad man looks for loopholes and says, "What can I get away with it? And will there be any consequences if I violate the law here?" And it seems that what the Trump administration is doing is suggesting that might makes right. I'm going to do this, and I dare you to stop me.
You know more about international law than most people, I would say. A huge majority of people out there. One of the defenses I've seen from defenders of Trump today about these actions is referencing the arrest, it was 36 years ago, in my notes here, of Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega. And obviously it was a very different circumstance for a range of reasons. But why is that not a good precedent? Why is that, as people see that in Twitter and their feeds, why is that not something that should justify?
Yeah, it's a great question because people say, well, isn't this just like Manuel Noriega? In some ways, the answer is yes, and that was wrong, too. In fact, it was condemned by the United Nations General Assembly as illegal. But there are also some key differences there, Jen, that makes this far more egregious. During that phase, that was when the Panama Canal was there, we had a military presence in the Panama Canal zone. The Panama Assembly had declared a state of war on the United States. A U.S. Marine had been killed. We were physically present there. And Manuel Noriega was not the official head of state. He was simply a de facto leader. So all of those ways distinguish that situation from what we have here, where we were not in any sort of state of conflict with Venezuela. They had not declared war on us. They had not killed one of our own. They did not have a de facto head of state. They have an official head of state. And nonetheless, we went into their country and abducted their leader to bring him to stand justice in our country. And so I think the Noriega example is doesn't quite square up. And even if it did, it was universally condemned at the time.
Barbara McQuade, I've been waiting to ask you that question. I've seen this all over as a justification. That was so clear and so helpful. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen.